most people end up stuck in the first stage of wounded child consciousness instead of wonder child consciousness. And there are distinct reasons for that. The great news is that the soul, that third most complete level of potential, is guiding the journey the whole time. From the time any of us are born, we have all of this potential in our bodies, but our lives are configured in a way so that we have time to grow through the most primitive foundational levels into more and more and more. However, if those primitive foundational levels are not nurtured and guided in clear ways, then we don't just magically assimilate the potential of self. We end up in certain soul curriculum. We end up in certain challenges. I like to say in the first 8 years of our lives, that soul curriculum is set up in the first ring of consciousness. And if we don't get 9 distinct levels of nurturing that teach us how to connect to self and how to receive and how to trust that we matter, how to trust that we are worthy, how to trust our sacredness as individuals, then what happens is we end up with variations of fear, shame, and judgment. The good news is that's perfect for the soul curriculum, because that fear, shame, and judgment is exactly what we need to face as we grow. It's the challenge. Just like when you go to first grade, we have the challenge of learning to do math, learning to read, those are challenges. It's a big deal. They're not there to kick our butts. However, how many people feel like, oh my God, the challenges in my life, they never stop. And they feel like it's kicking their butts. I certainly can say I spent a lot of time in that very place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they're great moments to help us to actually grow. They're our allies in a sense.
Yes, it gives us a chance to find out what we know and what we don't know, where we know how to love and where we don't, where we know how to value self and where we don't. And we get a very specific curriculum. Tying that into astrology, we all have a natal chart that was the planetary imprint on self when we were born. No matter which direction we look, if we look at the 9 nurturing needs, or if we just look at our planetary natal chart, very specific challenges were set up. Mine, as an example, I have in my first house Saturn and Jupiter, the father and son energy in my first house. And I ended up with a father who did not say one single thing to me growing up. And my biggest core challenge of self and trusting my value came right out of that planetary imprint. We all have distinct challenges. If you have one of the amazing astrologers that are in this summit do a private reading for you, you'll be able to name some of those specific things. If you go to someone like myself who understands defense types and how we end up clogged psychologically, so that the soul curriculum is set up from a perspective of the physical, emotional, mental self, you're going to get very similar information. The dance is giving us the same encouragement as well as the challenges. So if, to bring this all the way back where we started, if we learn how to recognize what our own specific challenges are, the great news is that the soul is guiding us to face those things so that we can come back to filling in the gaps that we're missing. Mm-hmm. We can learn how to nurture ourselves and value ourselves and fill in that first ring so we can reclaim the consciousness of the wonder child and build an empowered sense of adult at the same time. That is the opportunity within this map.